Hey, Alli, you're getting close to 50. Are things falling off you yet?
Things are starting to fall apart in this body, and I know that our guest today can relate, who is 50, and he has been on the show before, episode 22. Dr. Dan Ritchie, who is the founder of the Functional Aging Institute and the author of Never Grow Old, which is available on Amazon. And he's going to talk to us about aging and how we get through this life getting better, not going downhill.
He definitely has a lot of gold nuggets for us. Such an enjoyable interview, as always, with Dr. Dan. And before we jump in, let's give a shout out to Tammy Rightway. Thanks for being a listener. And now let's dive in.
Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Alli Kerr.
And I'm Shawna Kaminski. And together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey.
Welcome back to the show. Dan Ritchie is here with us on the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast for the second time. You're a brave soul, Dan, coming back for round two.
Well, I love doing these things with you too, so thanks for having me back.
We love it because we love to talk about healthy aging, and you are the expert on functional aging. And we were just chatting before we started the podcast about our ages and where we are in life and life transitions we're all going through. And we thought that would be a fun thing to talk about today. And you had a recent birthday and you told us things fell apart. So let's start there, maybe.
Yeah, well, it can be fun, but turning 40 was no big deal. Didn't even pay attention to it. I turned 50 in April, April 30th to be exact. I know Shawna's on April Fool's Day. But around the first week of April, my back started bothering me, and it only got worse and it only got worse. And I've never had trouble with my back. In fact, I think I injured my back sophomore year of high school in basketball, and it was like a 2-week thing, and then I was back playing basketball and never really thought about it again. This one wasn't like that. It kept lingering, it kept lingering, it kept lingering. I would go to a doctor, I can't get relief. They give me muscle relaxers, no relief. Nothing was solving it. Finally, they did an MRI, and they're like, congratulations, you have a bulging disc. Oh, great, I've heard about those. Those aren't any fun. So I did some physical therapy. It got better. I did some massage therapy. It got better. Nobody said, oh, by the way, because of where your bulging disc is, L2, L3, it's going to affect your nerve that affects your quad and eventually lead to your knee giving you problems, which is exactly what happened about 2 weeks after I got released from physical therapy for my back. Back's not hurting. Everything's feeling good. Now my left knee is bothering me. I'm like, what is going on? Everything's falling apart. Sure enough, I go back to physical therapy. They're like, yep, your nerve from your back injury has reduced your quad strength, reduced your quad firing, and now, of course, your knee is bothering you because your knee is not extending the way it should. So that has basically led to about 4 months of not playing pickleball, not doing the things I want to do, not going for hikes because either my back hurt or my knee hurt. Good news is I'm finally playing pickleball again. I got released to do everything and see how that goes. And things are finally feeling better. It's been, gosh, I guess almost 6 months now since I turned 50 and felt like my entire body betrayed me.
I thought it was just us gals, so I don't want to say it's refreshing to hear a guy say this.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it isn't just the women. So ladies, it's not just us. And, we don't want you to be in pain, Dan, but we also feel a little vindicated that it isn't just us.
Yeah, I can't say it was real encouraging when I saw the neurosurgeon and he's like, oh, your bulging disc really isn't that bad. He's like, pretty much everyone has a herniated or bulging disc at some point in their 50s. Not everybody knows it because they don't have the symptoms you have, but it'll probably resolve itself in a few months. And sure enough, it did, but it led to my knee problem then. So it was like, oh, great, one thing triggers another. And even the PT was like, yeah, we probably should have been watching for this. But because I got better so quickly from the back, nobody really thought about it until all of a sudden I'm like, now my knees bother me and I'm limping and my leg won't, do what it should do. And like, I've just turned 50 and it's all going downhill, so
Well, I'm
which
not
is
even
not the
50.
case at all, but we all have potential to have, some sort of back injury, especially as we get older, because our discs do tend to degenerate, so it's sort of a good news, bad news. And fortunately, I knew how to take care of it because I've
Mm.
been strength training for so long. They were all like, "Oh, you'll bounce back." It's like, but it's hard when you're someone that's been fit and never been limited, and now you're like telling people, "Oh, I can't play pickleball." It's like, what? I'm on the injured list. No, I can't play kickball, kids. I can't do this. I can't go for a hike. Fortunately, I'm back. I can do stuff I want to do. So
I'm living your pain. I've been dealing with a hip for over a year now, and it's gone to the foot, it's the hip, the back, and I'm not even 50 yet, Dan. So I'm like, but I'm knocking on 50's door. So that must be my sign that I'm arriving in full form. So for now that your body, you feel like you're getting better. So you did do physical therapy, it sounds like, and then yeah, how did you deal with, other than not being able to do the things? I can't play pickleball either right now. So what and that affects our appetite, our sleep. It affects our metabolism because we're not moving as much. Like, what did you do during this time?
yeah, well, fortunately for me, my office is in a gym, the gym I used to own, so I did not stop working out. I was still working out 4 to 5 days a week. I had to modify only a few exercises. So I didn't stop exercising. The thing I missed was the camaraderie and the fun of pickleball, right? Like the competition is fun, the game is fun, just playing something is fun. So I missed that aspect, which I would say did impact my mental health, right? It's like I no longer have the one thing that I enjoy doing. That's, like I also wasn't able to hike, so like my wife and I couldn't go on walks in nature and things like that. So that was something that was missing that she was upset about. I'm like, I just can't do it. So those things were missing activities that are things that for me just are fun, joy. It's like I can keep working out, which I enjoy, but I can't do the things that I really like to do, right? Which is so big because if you don't have that, it does impact your quality of life. It's like, why, Dad, why are you grouchy on Saturday? Well, because I didn't get to play pickleball this morning. So it's like, well, what are we going to do today? Whatever it is, it's not going to be fun. So it did have a definite dampening on my summer. But all through that, I was like, okay, I have to do everything to get healthy again, right? I sort of have to treat this as I got to get back from this injury. So, being consistent with just a variety of things, my sleep, my workouts, my physical therapy appointments, my massage therapy appointments, self-care, it's like I got to spend the next several months just taking care of my body so that I can get back to doing the things I want to do. Along the way, not taking care of my body by saying, "Oh, well, I'm just going to eat a pizza because I can't go play pickleball," right? Or I'm going to drown my sorrows in Ben and Jerry's, which is a lot easier to do, right? It's like, well, I'll just have a pint of ice cream, none of which would have put me on the right path. So really had to have a mindset of, okay, I might miss all the hiking I want to do this summer, but I got to do everything I can do so I can hike in the fall, so I can hike next winter, so I can hike next spring, and get back to playing pickleball. And I'm back playing pickleball, and it felt great. So that's a real positive.
And I think that's the biggest message is that as we age, we're all going to have something, and then you can't throw in the towel. So then you have to do the no fun things so that you can do the fun things. And
Absolutely.
I'm here to say, as having 2 hips replaced, it wasn't fun and it was expensive and it was a lot of downtime. Is that focusing on the things that I could do and trying to find joy in the things that I could do, even though it might have been not my go to fun things, has enabled me to do all the fun things now. So it is having that sense of delayed satisfaction, which in today's world is we do not know. Like so many people do not delay their satisfaction. It's like, I want everything now. But it really is all about like planning for your future, doing things for your future self. And then I don't know about you, Dan, but I tried to focus on the things that I could do, because if I looked at the things that I couldn't, I had a sense of loss. But if I looked at the things I could, I had a sense of hope. How is that for you?
Yeah, and that's really for me because I hurt my back. Um, Initially, it was like, well, I'm not going to be able to do as much leg work as I want to do, right? I'm not going to be able to do the walks I want to take. I'm going to have to limit those. I'm not going to be able to do the leg pressing, the squats, the deadlifts. I had to keep doing some of those, but definitely reduced. But I can spend more time focused on upper body strength. I can spend more time focused on stretching. I think for the first time in probably several years, I was like, okay, it's time to spend more time focusing on my hip mobility and my hamstring stretching and my low back stretching and all these things that I should have been doing, right? It's like, hey, let's get better at this stuff. And spending more time on upper body strength. Like, I've got more time available to do that. So I spent a little bit more time on that. And I enjoy all aspects of exercise. I think what I realized was, and physical therapy taught me, your hips are weak, right? Your quads are really strong. Your back is actually really strong, but because you have this bulging disc, neither of those things are helping you, right? So we got to get your weak hips stronger. We got to get your tight hamstrings more flexible. And so we started working on all my weaknesses and deficits and sort of jumping into that. And then realizing me having been injured before, I tore my ACL 15 years ago, and that set me back for a year, right? But I came back fully from that, realizing I can come back fully from this. This isn't the end. I'm only 50. I still have a lot of things I want to do, a lot of places I want to go, a lot of hikes I want to take, and a lot of pickleball I want to play. My dad asked me several times, "Can you play softball this week?" I'm like, "No, I just can't." Right? Like I shouldn't. Right? And there were times where I felt like I could probably play softball with a bunch of 70-year-olds, but I shouldn't because I'm not really healthy, and so I have to delay that and wait and put that off. So but knowing I've got, what do I have, 30 summers ahead, 40 summers ahead, right? So I have a lot of time ahead. So put in the time, take care of myself, get my body back to where it needs to be, um, and don't make it worse, right? I think sometimes people are like, oh, I want to ignore this and I'm going to keep doing things that could make it worse. When they say, hey, don't do any heavy deadlifting when you have this issue, well, I listen to that, right? Well, like, yeah, I know I don't want to blow my back out. I'm not looking to make this bulging disc turn it into a surgery situation. So
And I love one thing that you just said that I just caught about. I've got like 30 summers left, and I love that you think about things that way. Can you explain what you mean by that and just the thought process?
yeah, I mean, I turned 50, so you do start thinking about, well, how many years are you going to live, right? And a lot of people don't think that way, but because I talk about aging so much and I've seen so many people live well into their 80s, um, I think it's realistic for me to live to 90. I mean, my dad's 77 and he's still playing pickleball 3 times a week. He's still playing softball twice a week. He's got no quit in him. My grandmother, his mom, lived to 99, right?
Wow.
Now, I don't think I'll live to 99 as a male, but a lot of his uncles and men on that side of the family have lived to 88, 90, 92 years old. So I think it's very realistic to say I got 30 summers left to do active things, right?
Mhm.
I might have 40 summers left. I don't know what the last 10 will look like, but I want those to be active. And so I visually think about, what do I have to do now at 50 to be able to dance at my granddaughter's wedding, right? And I don't have any grandkids yet. And I always think very specific. I think about dancing at my granddaughter's wedding. I'll be happy to dance at my grandson's wedding too, but I specifically think about my granddaughter's wedding, and I realize that's probably not happening until I'm in my 80s, right? I mean,
Mm.
because there isn't even a grandchild yet. Um, so that sort of forms my idea of how fit I have to be, how strong I have to be, how well I have to be able to move. Because I don't want to just be at my granddaughter's wedding like in a wheelchair or a
Mhm.
walker, right? Like I want to be able to move, and move well and enjoy those things. And I've seen people in their 80s do amazing things, right? I want to still be able to do stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, Even play pickleball. I mean, I see guys in their 70s and 80s playing pickleball, playing
Mm.
golf, doing all kinds of things. So why not? Why can't I do that? So for sure I have, I should, I mean, none of us know, right? I might have one summer left, right? But what I don't know I can't control, right? So my expectation is I have 30 to 40 summers left, and I want to be able to do all the things I can do with my wife, with my kids, with my grandkids, with friends and family, and hopefully get back to Banff with Shawna someday. So
Yes.
Me too. Yes. When is that?
yeah, when's that happening? We got to plan that again.
We're going to interrupt this interview for just a second because we've got something we want to make sure that you know.
If you're struggling with your health, with your fitness, if you don't know where to start or you know what to do and you're not doing it, we're here for you.
And all you need to do to get our help is to reach out to Shawna and I at our email, sapodcast23@gmail.com. And we're happy to help and we will be in touch. Now back to the show.
Well, and some people think it's a bit morbid to look to the future and actually count how many Christmases, how many birthdays, how many summers. But honestly, it's what puts things in perspective, because everybody's putting things off till someday.
Right.
I'm going to travel someday. I'm going to do this someday. And then they don't really think about, well, what are the physical demands for me to be able to do that thing?
So yeah, and you're going to run out of time. You're going to run out of time. I mean,
correct.
Especially if you want to travel and there's places you want to go and places you want to see, you only have so many summers left to see them, right? And so, when Jen and I start talking about, well, she wants me to get to Alaska, I'm like, well, that's great. That's on my list, but so are 19 other places to get to, right? And pretty soon you're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get to all these places and hike to all these mountain lakes and see all these things we want to see? Well, we're going to have to be fit in our 70s to do all that. And of course, somewhere along the way, grandkids are going to come along and then they're going to be pulling us on trips and wanting us to go different places, right? And do different things and see different sights. And
you're going to be going to Disney World then, Dan.
No, that won't be on the list. No, count me out on the Disney trips. But you do start to realize, and I have been saying this more and more because Kathy Richards said this at the FAI Summit in 2022. We're all training to be fit or frail in our 80s. Whether we know it or not, whether we want to talk about it or not, whether we think it's morbid or not or uncomfortable, we're all training for that. We're either doing it really well, like Alli, who's walking while we're talking here, right? Like she's so serious about it, she can't stop moving. Or we're not. We're just letting life come at us. And then all of a sudden we wake up at 74 and we're like, when did I get so old, right? And it kind of hits us all at once. And like our strength is gone, our balance is gone, our mobility is gone, our sharpness of mind is gone. And now it's hard to get back, right? And so we can't let that happen. So whether you're 40, 50, or 60, you've got to be thinking about, but you're training to be fit in your 80s, because nobody wants to be dependent. Nobody wants to be like, oh, well, I can't wait to sign up for assisted living and nursing home care. And like, nobody wants that, right? You want to be thriving.
Nobody thinks they'll get old. It's like, it's not happening to me.
Right.
They're in denial, for sure.
They're in denial.
Yeah. And then it's happening as we speak, because if you're not strength training, balance training, doing some form of eccentric training. Remember in our last podcast, you told us about how that parking, whatever that thing is, comes up and
the curb jumps out.
The parking curb. Yeah, the parking curb that reaches out and trips everybody, right? The evil parking curb. That's never moved and never tripped anyone, right?
So. And that's episode 22, y'all. So y'all listen to this episode and then go back and listen to episode 22 to hear about the parking lot attacking you.
Yeah, aging just kind of sneaks up on us. And I don't think people really realize it till all of a sudden they're like, whoa, climbing stairs is a little bit harder, right? Or you ask someone, can you climb stairs with the laundry basket over your head?
Yeah.
And they look at you like, why would I ever do that? Well, can you climb stairs carrying a wiggling toddler? And then people realize, I can't climb stairs without a railing, right? So
what do you off the floor?
Right. What do you do when you show up to a place and the stairs don't have a railing, right? Or what do you do if you have a 3-year-old toddler grandkid and you're like, oh, gee, how am I going to get them upstairs? They're asleep. You all of a sudden realize, I've gotten older and I didn't even realize it. When a certain task becomes hard, right? Or you're like, oh, carrying the groceries in has become hard, or picking up a 40-pound bag of salt. And you start hear people, you go, Wait, you don't do your salt for your water softener anymore? You don't carry your own dog food in? Oh, I switched to dog food delivery and they're 8-pound bags. Like people start simplifying their life and
Yeah.
they realize, oh yeah, I haven't mowed the lawn in 10 years because I pay a kid to do that. Nothing wrong with that, right? But now you can't do that physical task. Starting a lawnmower takes power,
Mm.
right? You have to pull the cord with speed. So what a lawnmower companies do, they're like, oh well, we'll just solve that, right? They figure out how you can get a push button start or whatever. I'm like, that's not really solving the problem. It's just sneaking around it. So I think people are in denial, right? Because they're like, oh well, I'm not old. Because nobody says at 70 I'm old in most cases, right? 80's old, right? And then they get to
Mm.
80 and they're like, oh well, maybe 90's old, right? But at some point we have to realize old is more of a mindset, right? So I have run into 50-year-olds before that are like, oh, I'm in my 50s, I'm old. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm about to turn 50. I don't even think of 50 as old, right?
And then there's our physical age too. Some people that are 50 move like they're 90, and some people that are 90 move like they're 50.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right. If you saw my dad at 77 move, you wouldn't think he was 77, right? In
Mhm.
fact, if you saw him take a dive on the pickleball court, if you knew he was 77, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is going to be okay, right? And he shouldn't be diving on the pickleball court, but he doesn't think anything about it at his age, right? Because he has the functional ability, right? We've tried to tell him, stop diving in softball. That's how you wind up in the hospital, right? And he has a couple of times with concussions, right? I'm like, nobody cares that you caught the fly ball in a rec league softball tournament for 75-year-olds, right? They do care if you wind up in the hospital with a concussion. So it's like, well, I had to make the catch. Well, then of course it's like, well, did you make the catch? No, I didn't make the catch. I hit my head. It's like, what? So my mom wants him to quit playing softball, right? Which is the wrong answer. I'm like, no, no, no. You don't want him to quit playing softball because what's he going to do? Sit at home and do nothing and
Mm.
physically decline? That's a terrible solution. The compromise is no more diving, right? Like, let's keep your head off the ground.
Yeah.
Keep your head off the ground.
And you know what? I think like my dad had a couple strokes and then moved into not assisted living, but like a retirement home. And he actually deteriorated more
Sure.
retirement living because the bonus is, hey, you don't have to cook, you don't have to do your lawn, you don't. But then he was bored. He was
Sure.
not mentally stimulated. He kind of lost his sense of purpose.
Yep.
Mm.
I mean, he had almost no reason to get up every morning, right? Because it's like,
Correct.
I don't have a lawn to mow. I don't have
Yeah.
groceries to get. I don't even have to cook a meal for myself. So it's like, well, I guess I can get up and watch TV. And pretty
Yeah.
soon you're not physically active enough.
Yeah.
And if your highest level of physical activity is mowing your own lawn and then we take that away from you, right? It's like now
Yeah.
your physical activity is walking from your apartment to the cafeteria for lunch.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do that, they probably will deliver it to you because
Correct.
they want to make life easy for you. And then you're like, well, yeah, you're physically declining because you're not getting any activity, but you're also cognitively declining because you're
Mm.
sitting and doing nothing, which would happen to any of us at any age, right? If I just said, hey, Shawna, sit in your room for the next week, we'll deliver your meals, right? I mean,
Terrible.
oh my gosh, your mental health
Yeah.
would go down. At some point, your reason for living goes down, right? You're like, I don't even know if I want to keep doing this, right? And so
Yeah.
it can be. Now, I don't want to say all retirement communities are like that, right? Because there are some where it's like, oh my gosh, there's 19 activities a day, right? You want to enter a pickleball tournament, you want to play
Yeah.
bingo, you want to play bridge, you want to go on a historic tour, you want to go bird watching. I mean, there's so many things to do that you can get more social
Mm.
stimulation, but that's not all of them. And of course, not
Yeah.
everybody treats it that way. So the what you make of it really is a big factor,
That's
right?
exactly it.
And I've
Because
looked at some of them and I'm like, this is unbelievable. You got 10 golf courses and you got 10 pickleball courts and you got 3 Olympic pools and you've got unlimited fitness classes. I visited one in Florida and there was volleyball tournaments going on. So I mean, I jumped right in with the trash talk. I'm like, well, how do I get on a volleyball team, right? And they're like, oh, you got to get in line. This is a really crowded thing. I was like, I'm only here for an hour tour. So
Mm.
all kinds of activities, right?
yeah,
Even
but
ballroom dance lessons. You can learn French, all
but
kinds of
you
stuff.
have to have some buy-in. And my dad was not the type that bought into that. And
Yeah.
then it was during COVID. So, you know, he had a lovely home. It, you know, the retirement home was great. It was just a bad fit. And then COVID, we all know how that was socially isolating for everyone. But I do not, like you, I do not want to give retirement homes a bad rap, because for some it is the lifeline socially.
Yeah.
And some do better. Some do better in a retirement home than they do at home alone, sitting with no social by themselves.
Yeah, widows and widowers in a lot of cases do better because they're not living alone. Though men, Shawna, often struggle, right? Because when we see men lose their spouse, in a lot of cases they just lost their whole world. Whereas women lose their spouse and they just lost one person. Right? Yeah. Like women have other connections. They got sisters, they got girlfriends, they got neighbors, they got networks. Men have their spouse. Unfortunately, that's very true. And so when men lose their spouse, we see the social connection is so huge, right? That isolation, that loneliness, that loss of purpose because my spouse was my purpose, can be tough, right? And so some men jump into those retirement communities and do really well. Some men don't, right? Because they're lonely and they miss their spouse and they have a hard time getting over that. And so that can be challenging. And then with COVID, he's probably limited by how much he can even see you and other family members.
Oh yeah, I couldn't see him. I didn't see him for 2 years. I used to go every week. And then,
and that's the worst for him, right? I mean,
I could have gone and stood outside, but he can't hear. So I'd be in the cold trying to yell at him and he'd be like, I can't hear you. Freezing on the balcony. So, but my story is not uncommon. There's so many that had that, but it is true that I do feel that people need a purpose. So having that purpose is really important, and having that foresight in terms of what will I be doing as I age. I think that's important to know, to think about.
Yeah, it is. It is. I also think it's important to realize that you should also be open to new opportunities and realizing that things are going to come your way and you need to be ready for them. And, I always share my grandma Winnie's story. Like, I don't think she was expecting to go to Pakistan at the age of 80 to teach English as a second language. It's a crazy story, but I have to share it because, like, Shawna, you have no idea what opportunity could fall in your lap at the age of 80. And then you're like, do I go do this? Right. And it could be in Canada. It could be in another country. Who knows? We can't even know. And so I think we have to also realize that, like, life has a lot of opportunities left, and we've got to be healthy enough, functional enough, fit enough, independent enough so that when those opportunities do come, we can say yes, right? We don't have to say, oh, well, I'm 78 and I can't physically, like that. That was never a consideration for my grandmother, like the fact that she was 80. It was just, do I want to do this? Can I do this? Am I called to do this, right? And so I think a lot of us, we just take for granted, oh, I'm going to get older and then I won't be able to do things. And I think if we start to look around at people that are doing amazing things in their 70s and 80s, we all of a sudden realize, wait a minute, they didn't even get into that until their 60s, or they didn't even start doing that until their 70s. Or maybe it's something they've been good at for 20 years and now they've really gotten good at it in their 70s, right? So I think we get so bombarded with negative aging stereotypes, right? We think to be 75 is to be done, to be no longer productive, to not be participating. And it's like, but that doesn't have to be the case. Not at all, right? There are so many people doing amazing things in their 70s and 80s. And that's why we got to be ready. I say you have to be ready for whatever opportunity could come your way, right? And expect it to come your way.
That was the message that I got in particular. I'm sure Alli did when we had Dr. Kerry Burnite on, Joyce Ban. It really did, and her book is amazing. It really did help me change my perspective, not change it, but be more optimistic, because there is such a negative connotation with aging that, your birthday comes and it's like, oh, like a death toll. It's like,
yeah, right. But what if we thought, and if we really believed our 70s were going to be our absolute best decade of our lives. It's
Mm.
so counter to what we think, right? Because most of us think, well, our best decades were behind us, right? They were our 20s or our teens or our 30s or, whatever decade you happen to enjoy the most. But what if we really believed, no, my best decades are still ahead of me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the interesting thing is when you survey 70-year-olds, a lot of them will tell you, oh, yeah, this is the best time of my life, right? They
Yeah.
love having grandkids because they have this relationship with little ones, but they don't have to raise them, right? There's none of the stress and the angst and any of the issues of like, yeah, my teenage grandchildren are a joy. I don't have to live with them, right? I mean, there's so many positives to being a grandparent. There's so many positives to that stage of life that I think sometimes we sell it short. We perceive that to be 70 is a negative thing. But most people in their 70s will tell you it's a very joyful thing. In fact, that whole joy span concept, what we find is there's like a U-shaped curve of happiness, and Alli and I are at the bottom of it, right? So you don't start to come out of that until kind of your upper 50s, late 50s, and you start to get even happier, right? And more satisfied with life. Shawna's probably can relate to some of this, right?
Yeah,
Like,
because I'm ahead of you. Yeah.
right, you don't have to worry about paying for your kids' college anymore, and like, are they gonna turn out like like you probably still worry about your kids somewhat, but it's like they're adults. I'm done with that, right?
Yeah.
I can breathe a sigh of relief. You've entered a stage of life where you know who you are fully, right? And you're not spending as much time focused on trying to please others, right? As people mature, and hopefully they do, not all of us do, but as people mature, they get to a state where they're like, you know what? I don't have to worry about what everybody thinks about me anymore, right? Got
Yes.
to a stage where I'm more satisfied with who I am, and I want to be more of that person. Do you see
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it true for you, Shawna? Like you're more satisfied with who you become, and you want to be even more of her.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's your give a hoot factor is, you don't really care what others think. You just get to run your own race. And theoretically, we should be doing that all along, but practically we're not there. You
Right.
know, some of us arrive sooner than others, but it is very liberating. And I will tell you, when I turned 60, that was a very liberating year because prior to that time, and I still do, but the comparison game of like I should be able to do XYZ, like especially
Sure.
physically,
Sure.
and when I associated my name with that number, it's like, look, give yourself a break. You don't need to be doing the things you can if you want, but you don't have to. You get to run your own race. And, I mentally, I knew that all along, but then it's like, yeah, but now it seemed to be more real.
Yeah. It takes a self-actualization process for that to happen. Even though you probably were mature enough to know it at 45, you couldn't overcome it, right? Because you're like,
Oh,
yeah, but I'm still comparing myself to other people, my
yeah.
appearance, my weight. I notice this more and more with men that are like 10 to 15 years behind me, right? Even men 5 to 6 years behind me, like 43, 44. It's like you're worried about the last 3 pounds of fat on your percent body fat metric when like everyone watching you on social media would kill to have your physique. Like, I think you're too obsessed to some satisfaction that like, and then you realize you're never going to get there, right? Because whenever you get to those 3 pounds, you're going to want 3 pounds somewhere else, or you're going to want to be 5 pounds stronger, or whatever, right? There's this perfection that, now at 50, I'm realizing I don't care about any of that stuff, right? Like it's almost funny for me to be like, I just want to be able to play pickleball, right? Which if you said that in a room full of 40-year-old men, they would laugh at you, right? They would be like, what's the matter with you? Turn in your man card, right? And I'm like, well, you should come play pickleball with some of these 70-year-old ladies, and when they kick your ass, you'll think differently, right? Because they're really good and super competitive. But I've changed, right? It's like I don't care about what my barbell bench press is anymore because it's meaningless, right? And I hear these 35 and 40-year-old guys talking about it, and I'm like, nobody cares. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody cares, buddy, what you can bench press. So it does change. It does start to shift. You do start to realize I would much rather hike 5, 6 miles with my kids in the mountains than worry about what my barbell back squat is or my bench press or my 40-yard dash time or whatever these things are, you know. So we do get to a sort of a maturation process where we shift, right? And we start to say, hey, some of these things that I used to think were so important, right? They don't really matter at all, right? So it is a fun thing to get older in life and start to realize, some of those things I thought were so important 10, 15 years ago, they're really not that important, right? And I don't have to worry about those near as much as I used to, for sure.
And since we have you on, Dan, I want to get a male perspective on this. You mentioned about the lifespan and losing like a man when they lose their spouse. And I've just taken this for granted. I haven't thought about it until now. When you were saying that, I know it was a while back, but it just triggered this thought. How, like, I think one thing with women is we just always assume that we're going to outlive our male counterparts because that's what we're told, you know. And I mean, and that's what, not just what we're told, that's just what the data shows.
Yeah, sure,
And
absolutely.
so there's this mindset of, well, we better have some other things, you know, some other relationships, some other things going on because we're going to be alone one day. And as far as if we do have a male partner, and but for men, I just wonder how y'all think about that because y'all are being told y'all are gonna check out before us. So, you know, how does that play into the male mindset?
Yeah, I think men are not thinking about that at all, right? They're because it is true. I mean, life expectancy for women is about 5 years greater on average, right? In the United States, it's like 78, 79 for men. It's like 83 for women. And for whatever reason, in a lot of cases, most marriages, the male tends to be a couple years older, right? Not that there's anything wrong with women reversing that, but in a lot of cases, the male partner tends to be 1 or 2 years older. So it's already stacked against them. So everyone just assumes, well, he's 2 years older and he's going to die 5 years before. So I think the men don't think much about it, right? The men are just like, well, I'm going to go 5 to 10 years before you, right? But of course, we don't know that, right? Because there could be
Sure,
cancer,
anything can happen.
anything could happen. We had a client here at Miracles Fitness. It was a total tragedy. Her husband was 80, she was 67, right? So huge age gap. We would have for sure said he's going to die first. She was killed in a car wreck, right? Had nothing to do with her age. Now all of a sudden he's an 80-year-old widower. Thank goodness he was working out at our place and had built some relationships at our place because I don't think he had any outside of her, right? He really
Mm.
didn't have close friendships nearby, didn't have family nearby. So it was a major life change for him. And I'm sure he was going through life going, I'm definitely going to die 10 years before my wife. So it's never
Yep.
going to be an issue. So for men listening to this, or for women listening to this, thinking about their spouse, helping them develop some other social connections would be helpful. You know, finding a hobby for them, whether it's like encourage them to golf with their buddies instead of discouraging that, like, oh, you're always golfing with your buddies. No, encourage golfing with their buddies or learning to play pickleball or taking up a new hobby so they have those connections. You know, when I go play pickleball at this one park, it's all older guys, right? I mean, it's like 10, 12 guys in their 60s and 70s, and they have a camaraderie, which is great, right? And it's great for my dad because, man, he doesn't have many connections outside of my wife, outside of his wife, my mom. Um, and so it's great that he's got these buddies, right? And so I think for men, looking for those opportunities are really important because you don't want to get isolated. Women just, I think, by nature tend to be a little bit more social creatures. Sociologists call it kin keeping, right? They tend to be the keepers of the kin, right? They're the moms, so they got to make sure everybody gets together for holidays. They're the ones that, you know, I mean, there's not very many dads that organize weddings, right? Like the mother of the bride has a lot more to say than the father of the bride. We're just hopeful the father of the bride shows up in most cases. The women do more of the kin keeping, right? They're keeping the family connected. And so because of that, they're connected to the parents, the grandkids, and everybody in between, the sisters, the aunts, all of that, right? And the men are just like, yeah, whatever. Just tell me where to be for Thanksgiving, right? I'll show up and eat. And then when you see someone die, you realize not much changes when the man dies, right? All those things keep happening. But when the wife dies, he's sort of lost, right? So it is a very interesting thing to watch.
And I think the stats on social isolation, like the dangers of social isolation and dementia,
Yeah.
are very high. I mean, I don't have them at the tip of my fingers right now, but it's a real danger.
Oh, it's a huge danger. One of the reasons I am such a big proponent of group exercise, small group training, large group training, is the socialization aspect is so important for us as we age, regardless of the age of the participants, right? So if I'm in my 50s working out with people in their 40s and 60s, great. If I'm in my 70s working out with people 50 to 80 years old, great. I need that social aspect. In fact, we've done research that has shown people that have gone through a 6-month hyper socialization, right? Group activities, group bonding, all these group games, no physical activity, have performed as well or improved even more than the exercise group, right? Because the social activity is so positive to my health, my mindset, my functional ability, it even outweighs exercise, right? And so, of course, when you combine the two, it's really super powerful. And so this is why I'm not a huge fan of 70-year-olds exercising alone, right? Or they're like, oh, well, I'll hire a personal trainer because that'll be the best. Like, well, if you do that, hire a personal trainer and train with 4 people, right? Train in a small group, because that camaraderie is so important to every aspect of our mental health, our brain, even our physicality. People get better results because they're like, wait, if Alli can do it, I can try it. Shawna just did it. Wait, Shawna couldn't do it. I bet I can help her do it, right? Now Shawna believes she can do it. Whereas if you train one-on-one, it's easy for you to go, I don't know why the trainer thinks I could do that, right? So super powerful, the power of group.
That was one of the big takeaways of this book as well, and I like the way that Dr. Carrie Burnite put it, in that if someone is listening to this and realizes, hey, my social connection is not where it should be, it doesn't mean there's any. It just means this is the area that I need to do some work on, and rather than waiting for someone to reach out to you, just start to make those small connections, because meaningful connection just starts with something small. It doesn't have to be life changing.
Right, right. And if you're an introvert listening to this, it doesn't mean you have to go become an extrovert, right? Or you have to like volunteer for every group tour or activity or things that make you cringe, right? But maybe it's you find some place to volunteer where you can read to 3 third graders, right? I mean, like there are things you can do that fit your personality. Um, Personal training with 3 other people isn't that terribly terrifying, right? In fact, I think for a lot of people, it's easier than one-on-one with a trainer who you don't know, right? It's like, well, I've
Yeah.
got 3 other clients that are similar to me. So find group activities that you'll enjoy, right? Whether it's learning a new hobby or going to an activity, there are definitely things that you can seek out for sure.
Dan, if you had a wish for our listeners today, what would it be?
Oh boy, that's a big question. Um, Honestly, I mean, I think about this and I really think about I want people to live really amazing lives in their 70s and 80s because I know they can and I've seen it done. And so I think my wish for them would be to fully embrace that and fully believe it, so much so that it starts to change their behavior today, right? That they start to think about what I think about, right? I want to dance at my granddaughter's wedding. That they start to think about, wait, this is something I can't do until I'm 80. And so, how do I want to do it and what does it look like, right? And so, it might be you want to be present at the birth of your great granddaughter's birth or something, right? But think about something you want to do in your 80s and what sort of physical ability you need to have to do that. And that should change or even empower the behaviors you already have, right? If you're already doing the right things, keep doing them, right? Because there's value to that for years to come. Your future self will thank you for it. And people you have not even met yet will thank you for it, right? Like I have grandchildren that I long to meet someday. I have no idea when they're coming, but because I have 5 kids, I expect there will be some someday, right? So the odds are in my favor. So you have people you have yet to meet in your life. that you can have an impact on 10, 20 years from now. So embrace that and fully dive into all the behavior that means you need to get better at now, today.
And my wish would be that folks do take stock of, like, look at how many Christmases, give a projection. How many Christmases, how many summers do we have left? And what do I want to get done? And then maybe start mapping that out and getting busy before it is too late.
And my wish is to, rather than focusing on losses as we age, because there's always going to be some sense of loss, but look to the things that potentially could be better. It really changes your outlook.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I always think of aging as opportunity, right? I think too many oftentimes we hear aging as a negative thing. We don't think of it as a beautiful opportunity, right? Like, I fully believe your 70s can be the best decade of your life, right? But they're not going to be if you're not healthy, if you're not fit and functional and able to fully embrace it.
Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Alli, on Instagram at Alli Kerr Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shawna, on Instagram at Shawna Kaminski. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback. If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience.
Until next time, be healthy and be happy.